What are microservices, microfrontends, and microdatabases? Some time back, I covered what is the difference between monolithic versus SOA versus service-oriented architecture. Today, I want to focus a little bit why microfronts and microdatabases are popular, how they fit in within microservices. So let's get back. Why microservices architecture became so popular? Before microservices architecture, a lot of us we used to build monolithic applications. In monolithic applications, we used to take one solution, one project, and we used to dump all the code in that project related to our department. So if we were working some code, we'll put in that project. For example, if there were applications related to inventory, that will go the same solution. If there were screens and code related to finance, marketing, that would go in the same solution. And if some people have architected multi-layered architecture, so you had little bit luck. You had a presentation layer, you had a business layer, you have a data access layer. So what was the problem with this architecture? The problem with this architecture was, especially for big organization, let's take example of Facebook or Uber, they have one main application. And if they are making some changes in one application, it can create potential bugs in other applications. So they are not loosely coupled within same application. If inventory and sale applications are using some common function, you made a change for common function for inventory, potential was it could create a bug for sales UI. Another problem was once you build such a huge code up block, it was very difficult to upgrade. And the third problem was DevOps. You have to deploy everything in one go. Whole for companies like Facebook, Uber, whole IT department has to be there for the rollout of monolithic applications. Either it would go, if there are some problems, you have to roll it back. So whole department has to be available. The changes could be very small, changes could be related to inventory. So here the microservices architecture came, where you structured your application into set of services that was loosely coupled to each other. That was you could deploy them independently. They were focused on specific business area. They were owned by small teams. So let's take our previous example. In the monolith application, we dumped our inventory code, we dumped our sales code, we dumped our finance code. In microservices architecture, you build independent services. So let me give you an example. For inventory, you would have a different UI, you would have a gateway, you would have a services, and you could have a database which is exclusive to inventory. Again, sales also. Sales, you had a sales UI, you had sales gateway, you had sales services, and they could have potentially their own database, or they could share a database based on the based on the functionality with finance. So finance may have a UI, finance may have a gateway. The benefit of this approach was, if sales is happening too much and inventory only couple of people use, so I can scale my finance application without caring about inventory UI. So in cloud environment where scalability you get out of the box, but it costs you. So you don't want to scale everything. You want to scale only applications where people are accessing. If very few people are accessing inventory, it doesn't make sense to scale it onto 100 servers. Whereas if you are showing your catalog, you could scale it. The another advantage was you could deploy independently. If you are deploying inventory, Not everybody, not programmers related to sales has to be on the call for that day. Chances are there are no shared libraries between them. So you make changes to inventory. It protects sales and finance from inventory changes. And the biggest benefit to me was like you could upgrade your technology. You could inventory, if you want to change from Python to C Sharp to Java, you could take a piece. You don't have to change the whole landscape. Like you want to try some new technology, there's a new version of .NET framework, you want to upgrade, you could take a small piece and that will give you time. So what happened? So everything was great, but what happened in the real environment I have seen personally, people were using hybrid of monolithic and microservices architecture. So what happened? Their UI was same. Okay, they built their UI in Angular, ASP.NET, MVC, React, and they dumped everything related to sales, related to finance, related to marketing into one UI. Whereas backend they were building as microservices architecture for backend middle tier they were building microservices architectures. They were taking benefit of microservices architecture. Again, the database they were using a shared database. So what was the problem of this one? So in this problem, you were not getting the full advantages of microservices architecture. Okay, you did build some your components and you could build scale your components, but if your user interface is under stress, so you couldn't only certain part of your user interface is being used. Like if again coming to that, if sales user interface is being used by 1,000 people, whereas inventory interface is being used only 10 people, it didn't make sense to upgrade the whole application. And then you have to have all the developers on the call for deploying the UI. So you gave away a lot of advantages of microservices. For me, I always thought microservices architecture should extend to UI. It doesn't make sense if your UI is not architected in same way. Your middle tier is architected, so you have same problems. You cannot technically upgrade your UI partially. You have, it's all or nothing. You have to upgrade whole your user interface. And again, the database, you created one database, and the problem was like you hold the DBA team has to be there, and again you some applications will hit the databases more, some would hit the databases less, some may be writing only into the database, some may be reading from the database again. So again, scaling the database was difficult. So this hybrid approach took away a lot of benefits. So I think this is where the MicroFront and MicroDatabases architecture came into the picture. They put the focus that you need to apply microservices architecture on the front end also, on the database also. It doesn't make sense if you create a hybrid. Let's go back to our diagram. So this is how microservice architecture was supposed to be there. You have to have a UI, small UI which catered to specific business need, which is maintained by small team. And the databases again should be specific to microservices, specific to business. It could be NoSQL. It based on the need of the application. You could have NoSQL. You could have big database. You could have different database. You could have different technology. So friends, if you like this video, like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel for your regular updates. Connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially LinkedIn, if you like small summaries of the video. I will be posting a lot of small summaries of the video on LinkedIn. Thanks again.